The next aspect of neoliberalism that we'll talk about is how neoliberalism is defined by a blind faith in the power of markets. And we'll talk about three major points on this. The first is that the goal of neoliberalism is growth. The second is that neoliberalism sees markets as all powerful. And the third is that paradoxically, even though markets are all powerful, they're also very fragile. In neoliberalism, the goal of the game is growth. And I ask undergraduate business students this, I ask MBA students this, I ask management professors this, and they get this question wrong. How do you define a successful business? People almost always say, well, is it profitable or not? That is not how we define a successful business in neoliberalism. That profit is necessary but not sufficient. That profit is important, but you need growth. Profit alone is not enough. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If someone approaches me and says, Tommy, I need an investor for my company. If you give me $1 today, I'm going to give you $1.50 a year from now. That's a pretty tempting offer. That's profit. Now, another person comes to me and says, hey, Tommy, I want you to invest in my company instead. If you give me $1 today, I'm going to give you $2 a year from now. I'm going to go with that second person who's going to give me $2 instead of $1.50. And this is really the essence of neoliberalism and growth, is that in order to attract investors, in order to use resources in the most efficient way possible, we measure success not by profit, but by growth, by return on investment. Markets are all powerful. So markets are like these amazing forces of nature that can just, through their nature, through their essence, they automatically collect information from suppliers and manufacturers and retailers and customers and employees, and they take all of this information from all of these different constituencies, and it just automatically processes it, and it spits out an answer for what is the value of something. How can we efficiently use our resources? It tells us how much someone deserves to be paid per hour. It tells us how much a box of Oreos should cost, and it just automatically and magically does this. And because of this quality of markets, we should really try to expose every aspect of our life to market forces, because markets are going to make sure that we get full value out of whatever area of our life that we open up to the marketplace. And we've seen in the last 40 years a pivot from a lot of industries that used to be almost completely provided by the government. Products and services provided almost completely by the government have now become privatized, have now been opened up to market forces. We can see that with charter schools, with national defense, where we're starting to use paid soldiers or mercenaries in a lot more cases. Our prison system has been largely privatized in the last 40 years. With new infrastructure, we often see that being privatized, and the payment of tolls on new infrastructure. And then finally, even something like space exploration, which was so completely a function or service of the government, is now being done by private companies. And this is the idea behind neoliberalism, that everything should be open to market forces, because markets do a really, really good job of efficiently producing things and of squeezing the most value out of everything. We can perhaps you can see the extent to which this has inundated our national thought with this idea of self-branding, personal branding, right? That even you are subject to market forces, that you are a commodity that is going to be bought and sold. And people embrace this idea, right? They're going to brand themselves. That's really the extreme idea that everything should be open to market forces, including your personhood. Now, paradoxically, even though markets are super powerful and super amazing and they should control every aspect of our lives, they are simultaneously incredibly fragile. And if you try to regulate the market in any way, if you put any sort of boundaries or rules on the market, it just completely ruins its ability to efficiently use resources. And so markets must be left alone to do their own thing.